Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Not Your Average Josh back here for another movie review, and today I am reviewing To Kill a Mockingbird. It is the 60th anniversary. I actually got a chance to go see this at the theater. They put it back in there, and I am very happy. Had a very good time. Enjoyed my experience a lot. I had already seen it before, but I just had a great time watching it, refreshing my memory of this movie. But before I get started with my review, I do want to say like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate any of that. Just anybody who supports this channel. I'm just doing this for fun right now. And add me on Snapchat and TikTok. I will post content like this there as well. But for the most part, the majority of this content will be here on this YouTube channel. And yeah, I just appreciate anyone who is supporting this channel. So I was able to go see this movie tonight in the theaters. As I mentioned, it is the 60th anniversary of this movie. I actually was able to see this one other time in school. We had to read the book in English class. I don't remember what grade it was exactly, but I do remember liking the movie as well when I watched it then. So it was fun to be able to revisit this movie now. I only saw it that one time, and to get a new perspective on the movie now that I'm older, in my 20s now, and just kind of get a refreshed mind on this movie. Just getting into the positives real quick right off the bat. Of course, I'm just going to go ahead and mention it. Gregory Peck. If you've never seen this movie before, I mean, this is probably considered by most his best performance of his career. I only really ever saw him in The Omen. It's really the only other movie I saw Gregory Peck in, and I really enjoy The Omen. If you haven't seen The Omen, that is a classic horror movie, just on the kills alone. It is, if you're a horror fan especially, but just I think any fan of cinema will really appreciate that movie. But To Kill a Mockingbird came out in 1962, as I said, 60th anniversary, and it's adapted from the book. It is directed by Robert Mulligan, and I thought he did a really good job with this. It's filmed all in black and white. And for those who don't know, kind of the plot line of this movie, it's revolves around this family. You have Atticus Finch, who is the father, played by Gregory Peck, and he has two kids, Scout, who is the daughter, and Jim, who is the son. And you also have a neighborhood friend that comes around every so often named Dill. But for the most part, you're really focusing on their family, Atticus and his two kids, and also the woman who is there in the house kind of taking care of things. She is also involved a little bit in the family, but the mother died when they were younger. And so now you just have Gregory Peck being this single father who's also a lawyer, and they don't make very much money. This movie does. It came out in 1962. The time period that does take place in is, I believe, the 30s. There's really a few different stories that take place in this movie. And really the main plot, I guess you would say, is really just following this family for a couple years and the events that take place in this small town. I believe it's called Macomb in Alabama. And it's in a time period, again, where obviously black people are still not treated, of course, how they should be. This is even before, again, the time period that this takes place in is before even the civil rights movement gets going. So you really have that being a one part of the story that they focus on. There's this man in town who was accused of raping a white woman, and Atticus Finch is in charge of being the defendant for this man. And really, a lot of the movie is dealing with this court case, and just, really putting you in the perspective of the times of how a black man or black person could just get accused of something and immediately, especially in a southern town in Alabama, be immediately basically guilty until proven innocent, and a lot of times not even have a chance of being innocent. So I think the movie does a great job of dealing with that. I will say, as I was saying, Gregory Peck, his performance in this is just so impeccable. It's such a powerful performance, but also understated at times, and I mean that in the most complimentary way. He just knew how to act in each scene, if that makes sense. It just felt like he was this character. It felt like he knew what the writers were trying to get out of him. He knew what the directing was trying to get out of him in each scene. He knew exactly what tone to come at each scenario with. There's at times where he can be a firm, fatherly figure, and there are times where he can be a nice, consoling, sensitive, lesson teaching person for his kids. And I think that's really the kind of the main theme, I'd say, of this movie overall, is how Gregory Peck is teaching his kids to basically live in the world and trying to show them lessons where they will be good people overall. And you can see right from the beginning of it, his viewpoints come out in um, different encounters he has with neighbors and whatnot. And I think just overall, all the performances are really good in this movie. I think, though, as I said, the movie really focuses on the main family. I think Scout and Jim, as these young kid actors, are so good in this movie. You really feel just like it's authentic. Like this is a real town. You feel like you're there. The chemistry that Jim and Scout have is just really, honestly, really enjoyable to watch. Like they feel like they're brother and sister, and the relationship they have with their dad, it just is a real nice dynamic they have together. Of course, I mentioned the man who was accused of rape. You really don't see him much until the court case happens, which I will get into a little bit more why I really like that scene. But I thought he did a really good job. He doesn't say much in the movie, but it's very obviously important what he's saying, and I think he just does a really good job. I will say Robert Duvall, I did not even know. I've seen this movie once before, and I had no idea that Robert Duvall, this was his first actually acting credit, I believe is what the man said. It was a TCM movie, so there was that guy that always comes up. I don't even know his name. I did not know that Robert Duvall, this is technically his first acting credit. He looks so young in this, and he does play Boo Radley. If you ever read the book or watched the movie or all, whatever you know, this is kind of that secondary storyline that's going on in this movie, where you have this character Boo Radley, who's kind of this weird shady character who lives in this house all by himself. There's all these stories about him. He stabbed his father, and they were going to put him in an insane asylum, but they decided to let him stay at home for whatever reason. And now it's just like with all the kids in the neighborhood, there's just this like kind of monster vibe to him, where this unknown, and there's a lot of the movie does deal with the kids kind of interacting with this in a way you never get to see him until the end of the movie. And I will say, throughout the movie, watching it this time, I didn't remember much of what happens or in what order it does happen. The main thing I remember was the court scene. That was the most memorable thing to me, watching it before in school. What Boo Radley does and what he has to do with the overall story in the end of the movie does pay off. But I will say, for the majority of the runtime, every time they kept going back to the kids, they would just either be messing with Boo Radley's house, being curious, wondering who is this guy. And there's several scenes really dealing with their curiosity of this guy. And for a majority of the runtime, I'm like, did they really need to spend this much time on this guy? They could have cut like maybe 10, 15 minutes. And I still think they probably could have done that. So it probably falls in my mixed bag in terms of the movie for me. But I do think in the end, with the payoff of what he does and what he ends up adding to the story, I think it does pay off in the end. And those are really the two main storylines that you're following. There's other little ones throughout that are thrown in. You have this neighborhood kid, Dill, that comes every summer for a couple weeks and hangs out with the kids, who gets involved in some of their activities as well. The main thing that I really love the most is, of course, everything that goes on with this court case, with this black man that was accused of raping the white woman. And there's a lot to really dig into with this whole, just the court scene in general. But one of the things I really did love was the fact that they never really tell you for sure. At least watching it, and I've seen it twice now. I saw it again just tonight. Maybe someone could correct me in the comments if they're watching this. But they never, to me, really specify, and I don't remember if they did in the book, but in the movie, they don't really specify whether or not he actually did it, or the man did it. I really like how they leave it up to the audience to kind of pretty much have common sense, or to be, I guess, good enough in their hearts to see that this man obviously didn't do it. They do something that you just don't see in movies nowadays. This movie is so much of a slow burn in a lot of ways, and I could see how someone would think it's boring, and the attention span some people today, and even me, even like there were times where I was like, if I was in the right mindset, I might be pretty bored right now, just especially during the court scene, because they really do a good job of really making you feel kind of the muckiness and the slow moving ness, I guess you'd say, of the courtroom sometimes, even in just our society as a whole with any case, but especially with something like this, how slow the process can be. They really give you a good idea of that. And again, with them not ever really specifying whether he actually did it or not, there's not a scene in the movie that goes back and shows you the events that take place. It just relies on the audience to figure it out for themselves, who is right in this situation. And with the acting, the man that accuses the black man raping his daughter, you can pretty much tell from most of the time he's on the screen that he's not a good guy. There's really this long, I don't remember how exactly long the sequence is. I think it's like 30-35 minutes or something like that, about 30 minutes of really this long courtroom scene. And I love the fact that you have Scout, Jim, and then their neighborhood friend Dill all coming up to the courtroom to watch this case go down. I thought it was a really cool moment that brought them in, and it made the whole thing seem consequential, because if the kids aren't there, you might be thinking, well, we could be back with what the kids are doing. I guess they're just doing regular kid stuff. But I think it really added to the overall theme to me, or the message, I guess, of the movie was, or I don't know, I guess maybe even the plot or the point of the movie. I don't know what would be the right word for it. Is just how good Atticus Finch was as a father. He's kind of like the perfect father in a way. Honestly, I mean, you don't want to say no one's perfect, obviously, but just you just love the moment when the kids are watching at the end. Again, this is going to be some spoilers here. I'm gonna throughout this video, there's spoilers, so whatever. But I love how they're watching this court case go down, and you see in the end when the verdict goes down, and you just see the look on Scout's face. I love the camera shot they got there. Just the horror you see in her eyes of her as a kid, realizing, even though she's still at such a young age, that kind of realization anybody has as a kid, when whatever that first thing in your life that really made you realize, oh, the world can be very dangerous, and sometimes messed up things happens that aren't fair, like real messed up things, and you can just see that on her face. And there was a few moments like that in this movie that I love from the kids. There was a moment where Jim, Atticus had to shoot a rabid dog that was in their neighborhood, and this other guy was going to do it, but he basically admits himself, which I also liked. He's like, I can't fucking shoot. So he has Atticus do it for him, and Jim and Scout, they've never seen their dad shoot a gun. He said he hadn't shot in years, so they just assume, well, he's just a lawyer. Our dad isn't, a shooter or whatever, and he shoots and kills the dog on the first try. I just love the camera shot on Jim's face afterwards, when you see him kind of recognize, first be shocked and like, oh my God, my dad did it. And then go from that shock to that realization of like, oh man, my dad's kind of a badass. Like, I don't know. It's just a real genuine kid moment. There was tons of that in this movie that really puts you back. Even, I was a single kid growing up, so I don't really know what it's like to have a sister or anything, but it's still, it really makes you relate to the brother and sister relationship they had, and also just being a kid as a whole. There's so much relatable stuff in this. And of course, with the fact that even just the movie itself, not even the book, because the book came out before, obviously, but even the fact that the movie came out when it did in 1962, when, obviously the 60s, the civil rights movement just obviously exploding. And I think it was a great movie for the time to come out in. It's a great movie to even watch now. Some of the mixed things for me is, I guess you'd say, the pacing at times. I think overall it works, but I think sometimes they still could have cut out, maybe with the Boo Radley stuff I'd say in the first hour and a half of it. But once you get to the end, I think the last half is really, really well done. The way they tie everything in with the Boo Radley situation. And really, this movie, just with the messaging, that's really, I think, what this movie is mainly about for me. And also showing what a good father figure is, I think. Because really, you start the movie and Scout is older, narrating her story from when she was a kid. I think that's her point of what she's telling the story, is to tell how good her dad was. The directing is really well done. This is obviously considered by most a classic movie, so not really breaking any ground here with me talking about this movie. I just wanted to kind of get on here, review this movie, even though it's been out, obviously 60th anniversary, but I just really love this movie. And watching a movie like this, it makes me love acting even more, and it reminds me of being in plays, because just the way Gregory Peck performs in this movie it's really inspiring, honestly. Like, he feels like he is Atticus. And whenever you see that in anything, no matter if it's action movie, drama, horror, comedy, whatever, on the stage, it's always amazing to see, to me, someone really get into a role like that, and see someone play such an inspiring role as well, of Atticus Finch being this really upstanding dude. just a generally good guy in the world. We'll say it is such a slow burn. That is really the main thing that holds me back from going back to this movie a lot, I guess you'd say. Obviously, this is only my second time ever watching it all the way through. I would recommend it if you have never seen it. If you've never read the book, I'd say read the book, even though I don't read much books myself. But if you don't want to, I'd say watch the movie. Gregory Peck is, I think, worth the watch in and of itself. I will give To Kill a Mockingbird a 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's my thoughts on To Kill a Mockingbird. Hope you enjoyed this review. Follow me on Snapchat and TikTok. I will post more content like this on there. But for the most part, my content will be on this YouTube. And I appreciate anyone who's watching this right now. I'm just doing this for fun. So, like, comment, subscribe, any of that I appreciate. But I thank you guys for watching this. Be looking for more content soon, and I will catch you guys later.